Welcome back to the State and Local Sports Show here with Mark Tennis of CIF Sports, the co-founder and editor. We're down to the final 3 weeks of the regular season for high school football. In this area, the number one ranked team throughout the season has been St. Mary's. And an interesting point of discussion this week is figuring out, after a hypothetical next 7 wins, of course, of them through the regular season and the potential section playoffs, which is no guarantee, where would they be seated for that regional bowl game? There has been talk. Would they be an open division team? Would they be Division I AA? Where would they be? De La Salle this year still has its 276-game winning streak against Northern California teams, but could be vulnerable. They play a tough California high team this week, and they close with state number 11, Monte Vista of Danville. From your perspective, and of course we were talking, the one place where St. Mary's has been put in the open division has been the computer rankings, which is not how humans think. Where do you see it shaking out, or what would have to happen, I guess, for St. Mary's to be pushed all the way up there?
I think for St. Mary's to be in the open division, they're going to have a North Coast section team win the North Coast section open division with losses, maybe one, maybe two. It's going to be real hard for them to be picked over whichever team wins the NCS open division. That's a new thing this year. They're going to have their top 4 teams in the North Coast section overall that are in that division. De La Salle right now is one of those teams forecasted. The other ones are Monte Vista of Danville, which is undefeated, Pittsburgh, which is undefeated. Freedom is undefeated. Now, Freedom and Pittsburgh will play in 2 weeks, so one of those is going to lose. And then Clayton Valley of Concord has a loss, and they might be the 4th team to replace the Pitt Freedom loser. The thing about computer rankings is they don't really look ahead to what might happen, whereas humans can sort of look at the situations, look at the brackets, look at the teams that are possibly left, and forecast from there who's going to do well or who might do well. De La Salle, remember, if they lose, the team that beats them is going to be pretty high up in the human rankings. And that's going to be hard for St. Mary's to overcome it if one of those teams is undefeated. So I think if you're a St. Mary's fan, your best case scenario is not to go to the open division, not play Bosco or Mater Dei, but to be in Division I AA, and maybe, just maybe, you get to play De La Salle in that game. That would be more intriguing, I think, even than going to the open division, because De La Salle, as the runner-up in the NCS Open Division, would be eligible to be still picked for a bowl game, and that's where they probably would go.
One thing to look at is that Northern California football is very far down this year. When you look at those computer rankings we mentioned, when it has St. Mary's as an open division pick, it's the Mater Dei, the Southern California team, has an incredibly higher point total in their ranking. I guess the one equalizer would be now the state finals are at Sacramento State, not Carson. Those Southern California teams do have to travel up. It could be a strange midday kickoff depending on the division. It could be cold and rainy instead of 72 and sunny like it is every day in Los Angeles. So at least there's that variable this year when Southern California has a market advantage over this region.
Yeah, well, you have to keep in mind that there's a week off between the section final and the open division game. So whoever it is that's playing the Southern California team, and a lot of people in Southern California and a lot of people around the state are kind of forgetting about Corona Centennial, which has been the number one team in Southern California 3 of the last 4 years. They've beaten St. John Bosco 2 times in a row. So there's no guarantee that Mater Dei or Bosco is going to be the SoCal team. It could definitely be Centennial again. And it could also even maybe be Mission Viejo, which has the longest winning streak in the state and has been massacring a lot of pretty good teams in their region of Southern California as well. So, I mean, Bosco and Mater Dei are the 2 glory teams, but, I mean, Corona Centennial cannot be forgotten in that discussion. And when you give a NorCal team like De La Salle 2 weeks to prepare for whoever they're going to play, you can bet their defense is going to be ready to stop them or do something or mess them up in some way to make it a close game. And the same thing could apply if St. Mary's were in that game or whichever NorCal team was in that game.
CIF Sports has brought back state volleyball rankings this year. It's definitely a down year for volleyball in the Sac Joaquin section compared to years past when some of the Sacramento area teams at Pleasant Grove and then down with Sonora and Hillmar and teams like that with the smaller schools. Tracy in our area has been the number one team ranked by the record. They have 3 or 4 losses this year. Tonight, this is Tuesday night, they're going to Lincoln with a chance to wrap up their first outright league title in at least 13 years. In fact, I've talked with multiple people from Tracy High, and they have no idea when the last time it was they won an outright league title. What would it take for them to crack those rankings, especially considering they haven't played that tough of a strength of schedule compared to some of their competitors for one of those spots?
Well, I wish Tracy really would have been in the Stockton Classic Top Division last weekend, because one team that was in the Stockton Classic Top Division was Christian Brothers of Sacramento, which is another Sac Joaquin team. Now, they're in Division 3. They're not in Division 1. But Christian Brothers went to that and did very well. They beat Valley Christian. They beat Oak Ridge. They got to play Archbishop Mitty, the number one team in the state. And, they lost in straight sets, but they got to play. They showed what they could do. They ended up finishing third in a very good tournament. And Christian Brothers got into this week's state rankings toward the end at number 16. What it'll take for Tracy to get in there is probably to go ahead and win the Division I section title, and then a couple of these teams that we have currently in there or higher than them will have lost by then, and then that'll kind of more completely overcome some of their losses. Tracy only has 3 losses. One of them, though, is kind of a stinker one to Exeter. There may be explanations for that I'm not aware of, but they probably do need to win the section Division I title, and then by that point, there's a good shot they may be a lot higher in the rankings.
As hard as it is to believe, basketball probably about 6 weeks away from beginning. When does Cal High Sports start to roll out its preseason basketball stuff?
We start working on it in another couple of weeks. It takes us a good solid couple of weeks. We've done some player rankings of each of the various classes for the boys. Haven't done much on the girls yet. But it's another couple weeks where we really get started working on it. And then you're right, it's about a month before it comes out.
We knew a lot of the storylines for basketball in our area last year. St. Mary's was that national number one for quite a while, in fact, until it was upset by Pinewood. On the boys' side, we knew Manteca and Weston Ranch from the BOL were going to be by far the best 2 boys' teams. Now, a ton of graduation for St. Mary's now. Point guard Sierra Smith transferred to Salesian. We had the graduation of a couple of Pac-12 guards in Michael Caton and Kat Tudor. Najee Murray, one of their top scorers last year, an excellent three-point shooter who probably would have taken on even more distributing and defensive responsibilities this year, is going to be out for most of the year, likely with an ACL tear. She has a college career at San Diego State ahead of her. I'm sure they don't want to risk that. Her backup also injured. I also believe it was an ACL tear, and there's just been random, bumps and bruises. Akira DaCosta, the top-ranked junior in the nation, I don't know if it was just a sprain, but was in a soft cast for her ankle for a while. Nene Young, one of their forwards, with a concussion. It seems like it's just been, I guess to get where they were before, it takes some good luck besides down. It's almost like they're on that downturn of bad luck, And when you look over at Lincoln, they're not in the same league anymore, but they still play twice. Hey, their 3 senior guards are back, Hendricks and Tillman and Manipole, and they can shoot. Now, I think St. Mary's still the better team, still wins those games, but I think you might see that matchup be closer than it's been in recent years, and that's probably good for just the attentive basketball public here.
Yeah, that would be good for basketball around here to see Lincoln get a lot closer. They're still pretty far away in my estimation. Lincoln would like to just see them get past that hump in the Sac Joaquin section, get into the semifinals, maybe get to the finals, maybe even win a section title, and then go on a nice run in the Division I bracket of the state playoffs. They have the ability to do that because we've seen Sac Joaquin section teams do that. For St. Mary's, all the injuries, the transfer, some of the things you alluded to, it's cost them, in my opinion. I think at the end of last year, we looked at them because they have a DaCosta still there, and she's maybe the best player in the country, so it's not like they're going to be horrible. But I think it's going to be much harder for them to be preseason number 1 in the state, which is perhaps where they were going to be at the end of last season, since Chaminade, the number 1 team last year, lost a lot of players. But you look at teams like Archbishop Mitty, which doesn't have that many, doesn't have the same situation and injuries, and transfers and has just about everybody back. They might be higher now than St. Mary's, and you might see a Long Beach Poly ranked higher, which has a lot of good players returning on the girls' side. And on the boys' side, there's just a lot of really good players in the area. You know, Junior Ballard at Lathrop, Michael Hayes at West, Lincoln has Kelly, is a very good player. So I mean, there's some really good young players in the area, and you got to think the teams around them are going to be pretty intriguing. So that's definitely going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah, even though those top boys teams are going to be kind of top heavy with Manteca, the state champs. They have Titus Verhoeven and Dwight Young back. A lot of their other guys graduated. West has Hayes and Ephraim Estelle, another all-area guy for us. But it's kind of, even last year they were about 6 or 7 deep on that team and graduated at least one of those guys. So boys basketball really up in the air. You mentioned Lincoln getting over the hump, and I see that into the semifinals. But the problem is for them, at least, being still pretty far off from St. Mary's for now, is winning that section title. It doesn't seem plausible right away, is because they are, no matter what, a Division I team because of their school size, and there is no open division. Do you think with the Sac Joaquin section as big as it is, should it have an open division?
I'm not sure if it needs an open division in some of these different sports. You look at it in certain things, like in football, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. St. Mary's would be in it, Folsom would be in it, Elk Grove, Grant, Sacramento, not Sacramento, they wouldn't be in it. Del Oro probably would be, Central Catholic would be. Would it be the same 8 teams? I don't know if you need the same dynamics apply in football as it does in other sports. The North Coast obviously went to an open division because they wanted to get their second best team a better shot at a bowl game, and previously their second best team couldn't go anywhere forever. Now they can, and so that makes sense for them to do it. So I don't know if there's really a reason to do it in the Sac Joaquin for a lot of these sports to have an open division.
All right, the Cal High Sports Gold Club membership, less than $20 a year, less than $2 a month. That has all of your state record books, insider content, rankings. They have Sac Joaquin section football rankings now. That's one of those I'm waiting for every week. As always, Mark, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always great to come by.